inside the Now Morning Show. This morning, inside your spotlight, we're chatting a little bit about renewable energy with focus on solar energy right here in Trinidad and Tobago. To do so, I welcome Dr. Curtis Boodoo, GCCA Renewable Energy Consulting Engineer. Good morning to you, Curtis.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Tell us what the GCCA Plus project is all about.
Yeah, good question. Well, the main objective of the project is to decrease emissions through the use of renewable energy.
Okay.
That's one of the components. The other component is to increase the awareness and public knowledge on renewable energy and to promote its benefits.
So how does this align with Trinidad and Tobago's national priorities and goals?
Oh, excellent. So recently, our former Prime Minister would have raised our international goals as it relates to renewable energy. We are to deploy 30% renewable energy generation by 2030. The figure before used to be 15%, so we have actually doubled our international commitments for renewable energy.
And how do we plan to make this happen?
Well, at least for this project, what we've been doing is installing solar. I would call it small-scale solar. It most definitely does not compare to the 92 megawatts of solar currently being installed at Brechin Castle. Right. Our systems are, you could call it domestic and light commercial systems. Our largest system is around 16 kilowatts. We have installed, or we are completing the install of 18. Mm-hmm. We have 2 in Tobago and the other 16 in Trinidad, of course. So some of the applicants or awardees would have had these systems for over a year and a half already, and we finalizing the last bit of installs for other awardees.
Tell me about the benefits to the various stakeholders who would have had it installed already. What sort of benefits have they achieved?
Multiple benefits. Most, if not all, of our stakeholders are NGOs or community-based organizations. So these are organizations that are not necessarily well-funded, but do a lot of great work. And one of the main benefits that we have seen is trying to assist with decreasing the electricity bill by the use of the solar system. That's one. Secondly, we have between 3 and 4 beneficiaries who have solar, but they're not connected to the grid. So we gave them electricity. So they do excellent work, as I said, and they would have been using diesel generators in the past to get electricity. When we install our solar systems, they now have electricity. It's clean. It doesn't make noise when you generate electricity as you would have with your diesel generator. And in the past, they had a lot of breakdowns in their diesel generators, and all these issues would have been removed. Of course, they have cleaned up their carbon footprint because of the renewable energy installation as well. And it lines up with their overall direction for their organization and interests, meaning that most of them are involved in conservation. And a renewable energy system helps with their primary objectives of the organization. It also helps with their capacity building objectives. A lot of them have school children visiting and other organizations, and now they could show off their solar PV system as well and build that capacity too. So, yeah.
Nice. Just to backtrack a little bit, Doc, what was the criteria for choosing the NGOs or the persons who would have benefited from the solar systems?
Good question again. A few years ago, the criteria or a call was published in the newspapers for interested parties to submit a proposal to have a solar PV system installed. We received 164 applicants. So it was overwhelmingly oversubscribed, and we filtered that down to 18 sites, which is what we're currently working on.
But for me, that's a good sign. If it was so heavily subscribed, it means that people understand the value of the renewable energy and they want to have it as part of their process as well to make things a little bit cheaper, a better carbon footprint, etc., etc. I understand that this project is also providing some policy support. Tell me about that
Yes.
policy support and why it's so crucial.
Yeah. So two main policy documents would have been produced by the project and shared with stakeholders and ministries. They are the draft renewable energy policy and the feed-in tariff policy. So I'll focus on the feed-in tariff policy. The feed-in tariff policy allows you to install renewable energy at your home, and that excess renewable energy, you could export it to the grid and you could earn credits or earn money, depending on the arrangement of the feed-in tariff that is eventually agreed upon. So what a feed-in tariff is, essentially, it's an instrument that allows you to recuperate your investment in a solar system in a reasonable time. It could be 5 years or 7 years. So you are able, through exporting back the electricity you generate to the grid and earning something from it, you are able to recover the cost of your system. So it's the main mechanism that is used to help you deploy solar PV. And it's also the main mechanism the governments use to encourage solar locally.
And
Of
that's
course,
very
the draft.
exciting to me. So that says to me that if I install solar panels at home, I can then feed into the grid and be paid for it, is what you're saying, yes? That's what that policy allows.
Yes, provided the government agrees to the policy. Yes, they
Right.
have the policy. Once they agree to it and its implementation, yes.
In the policy, is there any mention of how you measure how much I give back to the grid?
You normally would have a separate meter.
Okay.
So you normally have your own meter at home. If you
Right.
have a solar PV system, you will put on a second meter, and that meter purpose is solely to measure the amount of electricity you export.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the draft renewable energy policy.
Well, the draft renewable energy policy is about doing a technical study first, at least, and consulting with stakeholders and presenting some evidence-based solutions so the government could build policies on that.
Okay.
So in our draft renewable energy policy, we looked at the different types of renewable energy. We looked at their feasibility in Trinidad, and we would have submitted these recommendations in the policy to the government. So when they do eventually roll out this policy, they would have a fair idea of what commitments they could make, what is realistic in terms of renewable energy.
All right, and tell me about the public consultation aspect of the project.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the most exciting ones, actually, at least for me. So we have visited a number of communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and we have had public consultations with many different groups. The business community. We had one with Fisher Folk. That was one of my favorite consultations. For different communities in Trinidad. We were at the Lanch Park community in Trinidad. As an example, we met the yachting community as well in Chagaramas. So it was really a varied and a variety of stakeholders we would have met. And we discussed solar, we discussed the challenges that they have, we tried to get their perception, and we gave them feedback on our project, on the systems, how they have been operating, what the expected costs or investment would be like. And all our consultations were wonderful. There was what I would say there's a good knowledge of solar locally, and there is a strong interest for solar as well locally.
In terms of the cost aspect of it, you mentioned what the investment would be, as in YouTube. That was part of the conversation. What was the feedback like when you mentioned that investment? Because I know it's expensive.
Yeah, I knew you would ask this question once I mentioned costs. If you are a high electricity user, you would fit in better for solar at the higher costs. You're right, it is expensive. So if you're not a higher electricity user, and given our existing electricity rates, your payback period would be longer if you're not a high user of electricity. But if you're a high user, your payback period will be better. Having said that, the government has made a lot of positive moves towards making solar cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
In 2023, they remove all the taxes on lithium-ion batteries. All our systems currently, we have 18, but we're finishing up our last 6, and these last 6 are using lithium-ion batteries because they are now cost competitive with lead-acid batteries.
Okay.
Which is good for everyone because they last longer, they require less maintenance, they're lighter, they're easy to communicate with. So solar systems are actually the cheapest you could get it currently in Trinidad. They don't have the taxes, lithium-ion batteries, you could get those. And the cost keeps on coming down as the global prices come down. So,
Right.
you know, if you're a high energy user, solar PV is something that you could see a low return investment period.
Tell me something. Has there been any challenges when it comes to, I mean, you know, I know you did the 16 installations and 2 in Tobago, but have there been any challenges over the period of the year that these companies, NGOs would have had the solar experience? Have they brought up any challenges that we need to look forward to say, all right, we need to figure out how we fix this challenge going forward?
I would say there weren't any major challenges. There's some minor technical challenges so in our system, we install our system according to International Electric Code, meaning the American Electricity Code or the NEC code, National Electric Code. And one of the requirements for the code is to have a rapid shutdown button. So there's a red button that we place on all our installations. And if there's an emergency, you just hit it and the solar system will go down. Well, a lot of applicants by accident hit the button and they will lose power, etc. And they would contact us and they would say, you know, this solar not working, etc. And most of the times it's because somebody's shoulder or something just hit the button. But that's because it's designed to international code.
Right.
So what we did in the last 6 sites that we're currently finishing off on, we put in a cap on the button. So even if you hit it, you have to pull the cap on and press the button.
Right.
So that's the first reaction I will give you on what we saw. But the feedback has been good. I think some of the applicants could benefit from maintaining the systems a bit better. So the first 12 systems use lead acid batteries and the last 6 use lithium.
Right.
And the lead acid batteries, you require to clean the terminals a little more. So just like for your car, you have a lead acid battery in your car.
Right.
Sometimes if you ignore it, you will look at the terminals in your car and you will see rust about the corrosion, right? So some of the applicants have said, we did train everyone on the operation and maintenance of the system, but some of the applicants have to do a better job at cleaning off some of that corrosion.
How do these solar panels fare during the rainy season in terms of getting the amount of sunlight required to keep the system running?
Naturally, the solar PV systems would produce less energy during cloudy and the rainy season. But when we design our systems, we curated each system according to the applicants. So we would have asked them what your energy needs and your load needs are. We designed the system with 1 day of autonomy, meaning the battery stores energy equivalent for 1 day for them.
Okay.
And of course, our design has a buffer in it. So when you do get a day that's cloudy, as you mentioned, rainy, you know, we prepared for that.
Okay.
But the applicants still have to monitor their usage because they only have 1 day of autonomy of storage in their battery of usage. So if you have 2 back-to-back rainy days, then you might get in a bit of a trouble with the second one because you sort of use a lot of your battery storage in the first day. But that is something we addressed during the training. They are aware that it's not like your normal electricity usage in Trinidad. You actually have to plan a bit for your electricity use when you do have solar.
Nice. All right. Well, Curtis, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing this information.
Pleasure.
And congrats on the project. We look forward to seeing the continued benefits and hopefully further expansion, maybe into more domestic places rather than just NGOs and businesses. We look forward to it and how we can contribute to the grid as well.
Excellent. Yes. Agreed.
Okay. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.